Wingman Joker, thank you for listening to this channel and please support the channel. Please subscribe. Chapter 15, Fiancé. The magician reached his house late at night. The recent demonic monster outbreaks had been keeping him busy these days, and as vice head of the city's defense, it was his duty to take care of everything in place for his fat-ass brigade leader general, who only got appointed to the position because he came from a prestigious family and his father wanted to get him some merits. That idiot thought that Lumar City, being situated in the heart of the South, would be a safe place, but it seemed that no one had told him that the two rivers that passed through the city sometimes allowed some very nasty things to slip through the defense arrays. The situation was usually manageable with only simple slimes or a couple of low-ranking monsters breaking through every other month. The brigade would usually deal with those very swiftly as soon as they were reported. But in the last couple of weeks, maybe due to the flooding in the southern marches, the number of sightings had increased greatly, reaching the hundreds. There was even a sighting at one magical school that was 10 miles away from the river. The brigade's resources were stretched very thin, forcing him to take his boss's place and beg the magical towers to send in reinforcements. Damn it, right now he should have been the brigade's leader after the old general resigned. But in this world, talent always came second, while background always came first. Unlike all the other magicians in his grade, he was one of the few who didn't come from a deep background. His parents were working-class nulls. This could be easily figured out by anyone, as despite him being a 7th-grade magician, he was not that rich, living in a humble 2-story villa in the heart of the city, having only 2 magical cars that he had to split between him, his wife, and 2 children. He was not poor by any means. High-grade magicians got paid very handsomely, but compared to others of his rank, he was just a beggar. Master John, good evening. A passing neighbor, a rich woman, who was arrogantly walking her magical breed dog, greeted him as she passed just when he reached his house's door. Good evening, he replied politely, then watching her leave, he unlocked the door and entered. He never liked that woman. Hubby, his wife, and daughter, who was staying up late watching a drama on magical TV in the living room, quickly greeted him without bothering to stand. John nodded as he took off his shoes, hung his coat, then entered the room and took a look to see what they were watching. The handsome young man in the drama was about to kiss the heroine, who was secretly an alien who came to learn magic on Earth. The reason John knew that was not that important. Not at all. Did she tell him that she was the one who saved his life? He asked as he sat on the couch beside his wife. Not yet, but he is suspecting it, the wife said as the episode ended on a cliffhanger and credits began to roll. Have you eaten dinner? She asked as she finally turned to take a look at him. Yeah, I am full. They were having a banquet at the tower, the old magician sighed. Where is Vlad? He asked about his son. He left early with his friends. He will not be back until morning, his wife sighed. I see, he sighed too. Is there anything upsetting you? She asked. She always had a keen intuition. It is just that today I was at the magical tower for some business and met someone at the door. He hesitated, looking at his daughter who was still watching TV. It was Nora's fiancé, he said after some hesitation. What, you met young Master Talos? His wife asked in excitement. How is he doing? Did he say anything? I told you, I am not marrying that arrogant womanizer. I will never approve of this engagement. His daughter stood up angrily and turned to face her parents. This has already been agreed upon by the parents. You have no say in it. Her mother scolded. But that's... It was not Talos, John interrupted. It was Adrian. And who the fuck is Adrian? Nora frowned. She had never heard that name before. Nora, mind your language, her mother scolded before turning to her husband. You mean Maverick's son Adrian, right? Wasn't he kicked out of the family? The engagement should have been considered dissolved back then. That's the point, it should have, but no one bothered to do that, so technically, John sighed. Wait, just wait, do you mean I have another fiancé? Nora asked, interrupting her parents. Ah, you had one, when was it again? About 15 years ago, her mother wondered. It was right around that time I established my 7th circuit, and Maverick, who was freshly appointed to this city as a vice tower master, came to congratulate me, John said. The circle of high-grade magicians in this city was not that big. Back then you were playing around with other kids. Noticing that you were very pretty, he jokingly said that you would be a perfect fit for his handsome son. Your mother jumped at the opportunity and offered Maverick to make you a couple, forcing the poor man to reluctantly agree to take you as a concubine for his son, he said. His wife could be really scary sometimes. That's why, to this day, his friends make fun of him for having no cauldrons despite his rank. Mom. Nora looked at her mother with an aggrieved face. Don't shout at me. Back then, your father was in some deep shit after taking a black loan to buy a magical potion that turned out to be a scam. We needed someone as influential as Maverick to make a move and save his scalp. Her mother said. Getting a Red Oak heir as a son-in-law on top of that was a good deal. Then you sold me as a concubine. Couldn't you at least make me a wife? Nora flared. At least with young Master Talos, whom she despised, she was an official wife. Oh, beggars don't get to choose, her mother sighed. Maverick's intervention really did save all our lives. The two of us would have ended up in some brothel to repay your father's endless debts otherwise. Yes, John sighed of his foolish mistakes. We also didn't know that you were this gifted in magic back then, John clarified. His daughter was right now a 4th-grade magician. At her age, this was a big deal. The older a magician got, the harder it was to advance. No matter what, it is all water under the bridge now, his wife said. Why did you bring up Adrian anyway? He is no longer considered Maverick's son, the engagement has nothing to do with him anymore. She said. Ah, right, let me explain from the beginning. Today, when I was about to enter the tower, I met Adrian at the gate arguing with some stupid guard, so I helped him a little. He wanted to meet Maverick and the guards were giving him a hard time. The poor kid, his wife sighed. That's how I felt too. Anyways, after we got in, we went our separate ways and I got busy, totally forgetting about him until an hour ago when I finally got to meet Maverick. He was holding a banquet, bragging that his son had passed some kind of an assessment and had been readmitted to the family. John said. Holy shit, his wife cursed. She rarely did so, but she had to. They were in some deep shit. Did he? Yup, although he said nothing about the engagement, he asked me about Nora as soon as we shook hands. What did you tell him? She asked in a hurry. Their daughter's new engagement had not been announced yet, but it could be considered a done deal. What can I say? I could only play dumb and tell him about her attending magical university next semester, he sighed. I hinted that she was too busy to get married, he said as his daughter scowled at him. Good, good, and, what did he say? The wife asked, ignoring her daughter's glares. He told me that this was perfect, he planned to make his son attend the magical university starting the next semester too. John said nervously. He said that it would be a good thing for them to get to know each other there. The results for magical university admission are already out, there is no Adrian in my class. Nora interjected. Poor child, you have no idea how powerful the Red Oaks are, especially in this city. If Maverick wants his son there, he can put him on the dean's chair if he wants it. John sighed. His daughter had grown up a little haughty due to his high-ranking position in the military, but she had no idea how much power those old families held. Quote. Shit, his wife cursed again. Young Master Talos is also attending. This is going to be troublesome and might escalate into something big. She said. Talos belonged to the Blackwater family, also one of the 7 top families. He would never give up on Nora, especially with both families agreeing to their engagement a month ago. What should we do? She asked. Let's leave it to the youngsters to sort their affairs then, John sighed, shooting his daughter a sorry look. He wisely decided to keep out of this. Ellipsis. Summer slowly opened her eyes. She was in a grand unfamiliar room, on a grand bed. Where was she? She wondered as she looked at the bright window, then at the grand clock in front of the bed. It was 11 a.m. Slowly, she began to recall what happened last night. Ah, she blushed as she covered her face with her palms. Damn it, just remembering those things made her want to die out of shame. It was wild, she couldn't believe she just did it with Adrian, the lamest guy in her class. Not even in her wildest imagination she could have believed that she would spend a night with him, doing all those depraved things. Why the hell did she agree? She couldn't even believe that she actually enjoyed them. She always thought she was a wild and knowledgeable girl, but she knew nothing. Nothing. Right, where was he? She looked around, then flipped the bed sheet beside her and there he was, a mummified corpse of what used to be Adrian Red Oak. As handsome as ever, she sighed as she poked his handsome face with her finger. He frowned, then grabbing the bed sheet he covered himself again and turned away to continue his sleep. It was clear that he was dead tired. Oops, it was her fault. Last night, feeling wronged by the world, she took him to his offer, using the cauldron mana exchange technique to first give him all her mana threads and then harvest them back from him. She blushed, remembering how intense it was. At first, she thought he was just messing around, but as the newly acquired mana began to enter her meridians and form the zero circuit according to Adrian's blueprint, she quickly realized that it was working. Seeing hope to finally acquire magic, she intensified her effort, finally killing him. Wait, he was still alive, so it should be, nearly killed him. Regardless, it was time to look at the results. She sighed and closed her eyes. There in her usually empty meridians, she could feel it, a circuit of magic buzzing with energy. Her newly completed zero circuit, which she, not even in his wildest imagination, could have been predicted to have completed as that bizarre position. Blushing a little, she decided to try it out. Sitting in a meditative pose, and using a familiar technique, she slowly took deep breaths and let her body start absorbing mana. As it gathered, she carefully began to move them around her meridians, forming mana threads. A process she had done for years as she tried and failed to construct her circuits. Now was the moment of truth. As soon as the thread finished, she slowly guided it toward a certain part of the circuit, positioned right over her stomach. Swallowing nervously, she pushed the mana into the circuit, and just as Adrian described, the threads began to untangle and then get threaded again in reverse, quickly appearing on the other side of the circuit. Summer almost wept as tears slowly dripped down her cheeks. At long last, she was no longer a broken toy, but a full-fledged magician. Looking at the sleepy Adrian, she sighed. He is really handsome, rich, and gifted, probably the guy most girls dream of, but somehow in her heart, despite last night, she was really reluctant to accept him as she was forced into this relationship after all. Did she hate him? She should have, but looking at his sleepy face and remembering last night she couldn't do that, and he really did help her. Thinking about it now, it really felt strange. How could a young man her age modify a magical circuit in a few minutes? Seriously, this was impossible. She could think of only one explanation. It was all a scheme. Summer quickly came to a conclusion. He must have lied about not knowing about her being his cauldron. Maybe it was his plan from the start. He should have been eyeing her for a long time. Yes, that would make sense. That magical circle might not have been his doing, but something the magicians in his family designed after he investigated her. After all, they had that detailed report. Those old families really had the capacity to do something like this. Last night, he just had to act as if he invented it to fool her. But why bother? Couldn't he just have gotten her either way? This all meant one thing: he really cared about her and wanted to gain her love and favor. But, in the end, didn't she get what she always wanted? Why did she feel upset about him fooling her? At least he didn't want to harm her. She sighed again. What use was it thinking about stupid stuff now? At the end of the day, the contract had already been signed, there was no going back. Maybe she should just try her best to act her role as his cauldron. That's the only way she could repay him. Someone like her shouldn't expect a marriage of love. She had always known that. At the very least, she should be thankful she ended up with someone like Adrian, not some old dude with weird hobbies. Thank you, she whispered to Adrian with conflicted feelings. Bad girls shall be spanked, he murmured in his sleep. She raised one eyebrow. What the fuck was he dreaming about? Scratch that last thought about weird hobbies. This guy might be the weirdest of them all. Where the hell did he learn all those things he made her do last night? She quickly shook her head with a blush. Thinking that it was best to leave him to rest, she decided to go take a shower. Slowly, making sure not to disturb him, she slipped away and made her way to the bathroom. She thought that her muscles would ache after last night's intense exercise, but for some strange reason, she felt completely fine. More than fine, in fact, she felt as if she was full of vitality. Did this have anything to do with the cauldron exchange technique? Could it be that this was the reason all those old magicians got cauldrons? While thinking about many things, she quickly finished her bath, then wrapped in a towel, she walked out and realized that she had a problem. The only clothes she had were her school uniform from yesterday. When those men in black came to get her after her father made her sign the contract, they didn't even give her a chance to get a change. Whatever. She quickly headed to the suite's other bedroom where she left her uniform last night, and then slowly began to dress and doll herself up. Thankfully each of the suite's bedrooms included a drawer with a makeup set in it, so she didn't have to suffer in that regard. Finishing with that, thinking that it would take Adrian a while to wake up, she headed to the living room. There, she quickly found the magical phone. Sitting on the couch beside it, she picked up the handset, and then using the phone's rotary she dialed a familiar number. It quickly connected. "Rose, it's me," she said as soon as the other side picked up. "I am fine," He is not that bad, she kept it short. How is Mom? Did that bastard keep his promise? Good, when is the operation? She asked. I see, tell her I will try and come to see her in a few days. Yes, don't worry, he is cool. I am telling the truth. Okay, yeah, okay, fine, take care, bye. With that, she hung up. Was that your half-sister? Someone asked from behind, startling her. Looking back, she saw that it was Adrian, dressed in his suit and looking at her with tired eyes. Yes, awake already, don't you need to shower? She asked as he hugged her from the back and kissed her ear. She didn't resist. I already showered, unlike you girls, we men don't take ages. He stated. Some do though, he added after some thinking. You could have asked me to join then, she said, changing the subject. Deciding to act her role as his cauldron. I bet you would take ages then, she said with a smile. You want me dead or something? He spat, letting go of her. I barely survived last night. She chuckled as she blushed a little. Don't worry, I will take my revenge tonight. We need to work hard to finish your zero circuit as soon as, he paused as he inspected her. Shit, you finished it already, he gasped. Yeah, shouldn't I? She frowned, asking in a worried voice. Did she do anything wrong? Give me your hand, he ordered, grabbing her hand without waiting for an answer, then closing his eyes as he began to inspect her meridians. What? She asked as she nervously watched him let go a minute later. Dear Summer, do you know how long it takes a magician to build the zero circuit? He asked. Ah, I don't know the exact numbers, but from what I heard my brothers say, zero circles take about 3 days to create, right? But that's for young stupid kids who don't have good mana control. She said. An adult magician needs 2 hours to establish the zero circuit from scratch, and that is if he has a sufficient amount of mana threads. Adrian explained. Then what is the problem? She asked. It took her about 4 hours, finishing right as Adrian collapsed. That is for magicians who have done it before, not like you who not only saw the blueprint once but also was busy collecting mana all that time, he said as he gazed deep into her eyes. What? I just did it directly as the mana accumulated, I thought this would be more efficient, she said. Wasn't she supposed to do that? Do you know how dangerous that was? You could have really burst your meridians open very easily, he said, brushing her face, and making her blush. Ah, sorry, she had no idea it was this dangerous. Her family never really bothered to explain many basic things to her, and everything she knew came from secretly reading books from her father's library. You should have explained it last night, she whispered. My fault, don't do something this stupid again, he added in a deep caring voice. She nodded, feeling a strange warmth inside her heart. At least he cared. Seriously though, you are either one lucky idiot, or one of the most gifted magicians I have ever seen, he pondered. I am the latter, she quickly replied. How can this heartless guy insult her after saying something romantic? I am more inclined to think that you are both, he said as his eyes twinkled. Regardless, let's go down and grab a meal, we have a long day ahead of us. She nodded. She was starving.